My joke is that my parents pioneered the marriage dissolution laws for the state of California. You know, it's like they were right behind Zsa Zsa Gabor on their. They got divorced. I think in 1961. I was 5. I was 3. I was
Yeah.
third of 4 kids. My younger brother was an infant, so and he ended up staying with my mom, and we all went with my dad, who was in the restaurant business. And that's the reason we moved around so much. The restaurant business is, all but migrant,
Yeah.
Somebody calls and say, hey, I need a guy. They say, well, I can't because, well, we'll pay you this much. Next thing you know, you're loading up the car and off you go. And then you're there for a while. And then he hates the owner and then he quits and makes a phone call. And 48 hours later, we're living in a completely different city. And without an awful lot of explanation that is going on, we just kind of moved. And we all reacted to it, I think, in different ways. My sister, who was 5 years older, she was very outgoing. She had a big personality. My older brother was shy and he is, however, the funniest human being I've ever met. And I was just the guy that was kind of like, hey, where are we going now? Hey, this ain't bad.
Yeah.
I had the joy gene, I guess, and I was never intimidated by starting a brand new school or living in a brand new. We lived in every combination of housing you could have.
Yeah.
Big rental homes with a lot of people in it, small apartments and vast apartment complexes with only the 3 of us. We were latchkey kids. We had step parents that were sometimes always home and not. And we were also thrown on a Greyhound bus 4 times a year to go up and spend time with my mom and in her small town America. I mean, literally like almost the human comedy kind of hot.
She was in Redding, right?
She started in Redding, then moved to a town called Red Bluff, California, which is the county seat for Tehama County. But it was, I mean, honestly, it was, you could have dropped Red Bluff in Kansas.
Yeah.
Or, Missouri. It was not like being in California at all, except the license plates on the cars. It had the Sacramento River ran through it, and we'd get on bikes and ride down to the river and pawn our money and go to the A&W root beer stand. And it was fun, save for the various confusions of the marital statuses of all my parents. We had a lot of step siblings who were all kind of great. I mean, we were always just this kind of big knot of kids on occasion, but then there were other times there was nobody around except us. So by the time I'm 10, I've lived in 10 different homes in probably 4 different variations of the Brady Bunch meets My 3 Sons by way of the Waltons, and I was just one. I was just one of an awful lot of mouths at the table. I knew what time it was by what was on TV, and I liked going to school. So I would say that we were pretty tight, and there was no malevolence. There was no alcoholism. There was no slapping around. There was no sense of danger in any of the homes, but there was an awful lot of confusion because nobody talked about what was going on.
And maybe that was the key, that there was no abuse or drug and alcohol abuse. Because, I mean, you could look at that upbringing in a number of different ways. Like, we could be having a different conversation, and you could be talking about your childhood traumas and your resentments. And obviously you are an incredibly normal, nice person who has a very stable family, been in a stable marriage for many years. Do you think it's a choice that you made, or that people make, to not carry that baggage?
I think anybody that is on the food chain of that type of family, it makes a very individual peace with their status. I just recently, my stepmother passed away, and she was a great love of my father's life. They were the couple destined to be with each other. And I got together with my stepsister. She's 5 years younger than I, and we actually lived in the same house, although on different levels. Sort of, we had different entrances. And we have gone back and compared notes about those years of when my parents first got married to when essentially we got old enough to move move on our way. And in the comparing notes, we just said, oh, yeah, that was a really odd house. They did a really rotten job as parents, as inclusive,
Yeah.
we're all in this together kind of thing. They didn't do that. There was no sense of we're all in this together. What there was is, oh, where have you been? And come to dinner. That was pretty much it. So the what comes along after that is, if I was going to put it in the way I took it, was magic always came along. Magic by way of we are moving. Magic by way of we're leaving these people and we're going to go start completely all over. And when you're young and you think that life has a degree of permanence, and that permanence is not necessarily great. I'm not having a good time in this house, in this school, in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then one of your parents comes in and says, oh, we're leaving. And you hop in the car and you drive away. And it is like, well, that took care of that.
Right.
That's done.
Right.
And now we'll go over to a new place and there's new furniture and there might be, there's new friends to make. And my joke is my dad would take the three of us out on the driveway and say, well, kids, your school is somewhere in that direction. Why don't you just walk that way? And when you see kids your own age, follow them, and they will lead you to the place where you're going to school from now on. And now that's a joke, but it's not that far off. So this concept of magic, if you just wait, something new will come along and alter your stature and your status and your time in your neighborhood. So by the time, look, I've been married twice. My kid's mom passed away just in 2002. And Rita and I have been married for 34 years. And you just end up having the same faith in that magic. Oh, this magic occurred, and here it is. And you sort of finally land in a place that needs no altering.
Yeah.
And I don't know is that a choice or is that just the natural flow towards what you desire. I would say that it kind of like matches exactly what I do for a living, which is enter room and seduce all people in it. That's what I did every time I would imagine that your wife went to an awful lot of schools. And if that's a socially uncomfortable situation, like it was, I would say, for my brother, that's an awful lot to adapt to. That ends up being an interior battle that you have to pursue. I did not feel that. I just I started a brand new school in first grade, and then I started a brand new school in second grade, and then halfway through second grade, I began a brand new school, and I stayed in that, and then I began another school in fifth grade and another one in seventh grade. And I just thought, hey, I dig the mix, man. Yeah. I had friends who literally were living in the same house that they were born in, and they were going to the same school. And I honestly thought, how can you stand that, man? Where's the variety in life? You gotta go. And I have plenty of variety in life right now. But as opposed to, I don't know if you're 10 or 11 or 14 years old and you're conscious of actually making a choice.
Right.
Other than how do I deal with the reality of what's going on